Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we are taking a close look at a very interesting British coin that many collectors have seen before but may not know much about. We are talking about the United Kingdom 10 new pence coin dated 1968. If you have an old British coin collection or a jar full of coins sitting at home, then you may have wondered whether an old 10 new pence coin can be worth more than its original face value. In this video, we are going to talk about the 1968 10 new pence coin, its history, design, metal composition, condition, rarity, and most importantly, what a circulated example may realistically be worth today. The 1968 10 new pence coin is an important piece of modern British numismatic history because it belongs to the first generation of decimal coins introduced in the United Kingdom. Decimalization was a major change in British currency, and these early new pence coins became part of that transformation. The 10 new pence denomination was introduced as part of the new decimal currency system, and the first coins were dated 1968. When people find one of these coins, they sometimes assume that because it is an old coin it must automatically be extremely valuable. That is not always the case. Age is only one part of coin value. Collectors also look at rarity, condition, demand, varieties, errors, and whether the coin has something unusual that separates it from ordinary examples. The 1968 10 new pence coin has a large round appearance and features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse. The reverse design features the crowned lion passant, which became associated with the 10 new pence denomination. The design was created by Christopher Ironside, and the coin became one of the recognizable pieces of Britain's early decimal currency. The original 1968 10 new pence coins were made from cupro-nickel. This means the coin is not a silver coin, even though its bright appearance can sometimes make people think that it contains precious metal. Cupro-nickel was commonly used for British circulating coins because it provided good durability and a silver-colored appearance. Now let's talk about the condition of a circulated 1968 10 new pence coin. This is extremely important when trying to estimate value. A circulated coin has normally been used in everyday transactions. It may have scratches, small mark surface where dirt, discoloration, and loss of detail. The more heavily circulated the coin is, the less attractive it may be to collectors. A typical circulated 1968 10 new pence coin is generally not a high-value rarity simply because of its date. Many examples were produced, and the coin was intended for everyday circulation. Because of this, collectors can often find ordinary circulated examples without paying a large premium. For a common circulated example, the value may be close to face value in terms of collector demand, or only a modest premium depending on condition and market demand. However, old British decimal coins can still be interesting to collectors because of their historical importance. One of the biggest mistakes people make when searching for coin values online is believing every old coin with a large asking price is actually worth that amount. An online listing showing a coin for hundreds or thousands of pounds does not mean someone has actually paid that amount. The better way to judge a coin is to look at genuine completed sales and compare coins with the same date, denomination, condition, and variety. 1987 Jefferson nickel 5-cent coin. This is a coin that many people spend every day without thinking about it. But some examples can be worth much more than their face value depending on their condition and special features. Stay with me until the end because you might have one of these coins in your collection right now. The Jefferson nickel has been an important part of American currency since 1938. The coin was created to honor Thomas Jefferson, who was the third president of the United States. His portrait appears on the front of the coin, while his famous home Monticello appears on the back. The 1987 Jefferson nickel was produced at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins from Philadelphia do not have a mint mark, while coins from Denver have the D-mint mark. Millions of 1987 Jefferson nickels were made for circulation. Because of this, most coins found in pocket change today are common. Even though they are common, collectors still search for the best examples because high-quality coins can be worth much more than 5 cents. When checking your 1987 Jefferson nickel, the first thing to examine is the condition. A heavily circulated coin will show scratches, worn details, and dull surfaces. These coins are usually worth only their face value. Coins that have less wear with bright surfaces and sharp details are more desirable. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we are taking a close look at a fascinating Australian coin that many people may still have sitting in an old coin jar or collection. We are talking about the Australian 10-cent coin dated 2008. If you have a 2008 Australian 10-cent coin, then you may be wondering if it is worth more than its face value and whether there are any special features that could make your coin interesting to collectors. The Australian 10-cent coin has a long history, and it is one of the familiar denominations in the Australian decimal coin series. The 10-cent denomination was introduced when Australia changed to decimal currency in 1966. Since then, millions of 10-cent coins have been produced for everyday circulation. The 2008 issue is especially interesting because collectors often look at coins from specific years to understand their mintage figures, condition varieties, and possible errors. However, it is important to remember that simply having an old date does not automatically make a coin extremely valuable. The condition, rarity, and presence of a genuine mint error can make a much bigger difference. The Australian 10-cent coin has a denomination of 10 cents and features the well-known lyrebird design. The lyrebird is one of Australia's most recognizable native birds, and it has appeared on the Australian 10-cent coin since decimal currency began. The reverse design was created by Australian artist Stuart Devlin, who designed many of Australia's decimal coins. On the obverse of the coin, you will normally find the portrait of the reigning monarch. For a 2008 Australian 10-cent coin, the obverse features Queen Elizabeth II. If you have one of these coins at home, take a few moments to examine it carefully. First, check the date and make sure it is actually 1968. Then inspect the obverse and reverse for unusual features. Look at the lettering, the portrait, the lion, and the edge. Check for signs of an authentic minting error rather than ordinary damage. Next, examine the overall condition. Is the coin heavily worn, or does it still have sharp details? Are the surfaces covered with scratches? Has someone polished the coin? Does it have attractive original surfaces? These details can make a difference when comparing examples. You can also weigh the coin and measure its diameter if you have suitable equipment. Comparing the measurements with trusted numismatic references can help determine whether the coin is consistent with the normal specifications. However, weight and measurements alone do not prove that a coin is rare. They are simply additional information that can help identify the coin. Collectors also pay attention to provenance and authenticity when dealing with valuable coins. If someone claims that an ordinary 1968 10 new pence is worth an enormous amount, then you should ask why. Is there a documented variety? Is there a genuine mint error? Is it an exceptionally high-grade example? Has an identical coin sold for that amount through a reputable auction? These questions can help protect collectors from unrealistic valuations. It is also worth remembering that the market can change. Coin values are influenced by supply and demand, and different collectors may have different opinions about what they are willing to pay. A price seen in one market may not be the same in another. If your 1968 10 new pence is simply a normal circulated coin, then its greatest value may be its historical significance rather than a huge monetary price. For many collectors, that is perfectly fine. Coin collecting is not only about finding coins worth thousands of pounds. It is also about discovering history and learning about the people, designs, technology, and events connected to each coin. Imagine holding a coin that was made during the years when Britain was preparing for one of the biggest changes in its monetary system. That small piece of metal passed through shops, pockets, tills, and banks, and may have been handled by countless people. That history is part of what makes collecting fascinating. If you are building a collection of British decimal coins, then the 1968 10 new pence is certainly an interesting coin to include. You can pair it with other early decimal denominations and create a collection showing the development of Britain's decimal currency. And remember that condition is extremely important. Two coins with the same date can look completely different. One may be heavily worn while another may have very sharp details. The better preserved example is usually more desirable. If you find a coin that appears to have an unusual error, do not immediately clean it or alter it. Take clear photographs of both sides and the edge. Record its weight and measurements if possible. Then compare it with reliable references or ask a professional numismatist for an opinion. The biggest lesson from the 1968 10 new pence coin is that you should always inspect your change carefully. Many people ignore older coins because they assume they are worthless. But collectors know. This change in color is normal, and collectors often describe these coins as red, brown, or brown depending on how much of the original color remains. Condition is one of the biggest factors that affects the value of a 1991 Lincoln penny. A heavily circulated coin with worn detail scratches and discoloration is usually worth only 1 cent. Coins that have light wear with clear details may sell for a small premium, especially if they have an attractive appearance. A very nice circulated 1991 Lincoln penny can often be worth a few cents to around 25 cents depending on its quality. Coins with exceptional eye appeal or very little wear may bring a little more from collectors who are building complete Lincoln penny collections. If your coin still has full original shine with almost no signs of circulation, it could be considered an uncirculated coin. Uncirculated examples are much more desirable, and certified high-grade coins can be worth several dollars or even more depending on the final grade given by a professional grading service. Collectors should also look for mint errors because these can increase the value dramatically. Off-center strikes, double die varieties, die cracks, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and other unusual mint mistakes are always popular. A genuine error coin can sell for much more than a normal example, especially if the error is easy to see. The 1968 10 Pence coin features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse. The reverse features the crowned lion passant design associated with the denomination. The design was created by Christopher Ironside, who was responsible for several of Britain's new decimal coin designs. The coin was made from cupro-nickel and was designed to be durable enough for everyday circulation. Because it was intended for normal use, millions of these coins entered circulation and became a familiar part of British currency. The introduction of these coins was a major step toward decimalization. People in Britain had used the old currency system for centuries, so the transition required preparation and public education. The early new pence coins helped people become familiar with the new denominations before the complete changeover in 1971. The 1968 10 pence is therefore more than just an old British coin. It represents an important period when Britain was moving from its traditional currency system into the modern decimal system used today. For collectors, the historical importance of the 1968 date makes this coin especially interesting. Although an ordinary circulated example is generally not extremely rare, the coin remains popular among collectors of early British decimal currency and Queen Elizabeth II coins. So, when you find a 1968 10 pence coin, remember that you are holding a small piece of the history of Britain's transition to decimal currency. Thanks for watching, and remember, before spending or selling an old coin, always take a close look at the date, condition, design, and possible varieties. You never know what interesting history may be sitting in your collection. See you in the next video.